Meghan loudly booed by angry crowd out British of Fashion Award as she climbed the stage to present speech, in what could only be described as a shocking display of public discontent. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, found herself at the center of a firestorm of controversy during the British Fashion Awards. Loud boos echoed through the venue as she stepped onto the stage to deliver a speech, a moment that was meant to solidify her public image but instead exposed the deepening cracks in her relationship with the British public. Far from being the glamorous and inspiring figure she once aspired to be, Meghan's appearance at the event has reignited fierce debates over her perceived hypocrisy, divisive actions, and the unraveling of her public persona. The scene was as dramatic as it was telling. Dressed in a designer gown, Meghan approached the podium with her trademark confidence, but the atmosphere in the room was anything but welcoming. The boos began as murmurs but quickly grew louder, underscoring the palpable tension in the air. For many attendees, this was not just a moment of disapproval, it was a public reckoning. The British public, once enamored with the idea of a modern duchess breaking royal barriers, has grown increasingly disillusioned with Meghan's actions and perceived disregard for royal traditions and values. Her speech, intended to celebrate the achievements of the fashion industry, was overshadowed by the audience's reaction, which spoke volumes about her dwindling support in the UK. A significant source of frustration for many lies in Meghan's continued efforts to position herself as a champion of causes like sustainability, inclusivity, and empowerment, while critics argue that her actions often contradict these principles. At the British Fashion Awards, Meghan praised the fashion industry's strides towards sustainability in ethical practices. However, her own record tells a different story. The designer gown she wore for the event, reportedly worth thousands of pounds, was seen by many as emblematic of her disconnect from the very values she espouses. Critics were quick to point out the irony: how can someone advocate for sustainability while flaunting extravagant, one-time-use outfits that cost more than the average Briton's annual salary? This isn't the first time Meghan has been accused of hypocrisy. From her private jet travels while promoting environmentalism to her lavish lifestyle funded by deals with streaming giants like Netflix and Spotify, her actions have consistently drawn criticism. The British public, already skeptical of her motives, saw her appearance at the awards as yet another example of her prioritizing optics over substance. Meghan's critics argue that her actions undermine her credibility, making her a polarizing figure rather than an inspiring one. Much of the animosity toward Meghan stems from her and Prince Harry's decision to step back from royal duties in 2020, a move that many Britons viewed as a betrayal of the monarchy. Dubbed Megxit, the couple's departure from the royal family was framed as a quest for privacy and independence. Yet, in the years since, Meghan and Harry have embarked on a highly publicized media campaign, giving tell-all interviews, producing documentaries, and releasing memoirs that air the royal family's dirty laundry. During her speech at the British Fashion Awards, Meghan alluded to her personal struggles and the challenges of being in the public eye, a recurring theme in her public appearances. However, many found this tone deaf, given her apparent willingness to remain in the spotlight when it suits her. Critics argue that Meghan's lamentations about media scrutiny ring hollow when she continues to capitalize on the very attention she claims to resent. For many, her speech was less about celebrating fashion and more about perpetuating her own narrative, a move that further alienated her from an already skeptical audience. Another factor contributing to Meghan's unpopularity in the UK is her perceived involvement in political and social issues, which many see as inappropriate for a member, or former member, of the royal family. While royals are traditionally expected to remain apolitical, Meghan has never shied away from expressing her views on issues ranging from gender equality to systemic racism. While these are undoubtedly important topics, her approach has often been criticized as self-serving and divisive. At the British Fashion Awards, Meghan's speech touched on themes of inclusivity and representation, topics she has championed throughout her public life. However, critics argue that her rhetoric often comes across as performative rather than genuine. Her detractors point to her tendency to center herself in these conversations, framing her experiences as emblematic of broader societal issues. For many, This approach has only deepened the perception that Meghan is more interested in self-promotion than meaningful change. It would be remiss not to acknowledge the role of the media in shaping public opinion about Meghan Markle. From the moment her relationship with Prince Harry became public, Meghan has been a lightning rod for tabloid scrutiny. While some of the criticism leveled at her has undoubtedly been unfair, rooted in racism, sexism, and xenophobia, her actions have also provided ample fodder for her detractors. Her high-profile interviews with Oprah Winfrey and other media outlets have only added fuel to the fire, as they often come across as calculated attempts to control the narrative rather than offer genuine insight. The British Fashion Awards incident is a case in point. While the boos from the audience were a clear indication of public sentiment, the media's coverage of the event has further polarized opinions. Some outlets have focused on the negative reaction, framing it as a damning indictment of Meghan's public image. Others have sought to defend her, arguing that the boos were the result of a vocal minority rather than a widespread backlash. Regardless of the truth, the incident has once again thrust Meghan into the spotlight, reinforcing her status as one of the most controversial figures in recent memory. As Meghan Markle continues to navigate her post-royal life, the road ahead is fraught with challenges. The British Fashion Awards should have been an opportunity for her to showcase her grace, intellect, and commitment to meaningful causes. Instead, it became a stark reminder of the growing divide between her and the British public. The boos that greeted her on stage were not just a moment of embarrassment, they were a reflection of the simmering resentment that many feel toward a woman who once promised to modernize the monarchy but has instead become a symbol of controversy and division. For Meghan, the path to redemption will require more than carefully crafted speeches and glamorous public appearances. It will demand actions that align with her words, a willingness to engage with her critics, and a genuine commitment to the causes she claims to champion. Whether she can rise to the occasion remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: the public's patience is wearing thin, and the clock is ticking. It would be remiss not to acknowledge the role of the media in shaping public opinion about Meghan Markle. From the moment her relationship with Prince Harry became public, Meghan has been a lightning rod for tabloid scrutiny. While some of the criticism leveled at her has undoubtedly been unfair, rooted in racism, sexism, and xenophobia, her actions have also provided ample fodder for her detractors. Her high-profile interviews with Oprah Winfrey and other media outlets have only added fuel to the fire, as they often come across as calculated attempts to control the narrative rather than offer genuine insight. The British Fashion Awards incident is a case in point. While the boos from the audience were a clear indication of public sentiment, the media's coverage of the event has further polarized opinions. Some outlets have focused on the negative reaction, framing it as a damning indictment of Meghan's public image.